Darkness was her only witness. The forest loomed, ancient, alive, and merciless, its branches clawing at the sky as if even nature itself wanted to hold her down. Rain tore through the canopy in icy needles, soaking her torn dress until it clung to her trembling body. Every breath she took was sharp and shallow, fogging in the cold night air. Lyra ran, barefoot, bloodied, broken. Each step was agony, the sting of thorns against her skin, the taste of copper in her mouth, the burn of exhaustion clawing through her chest. Behind her, the howls drew closer, low, savage, echoing through the woods like a curse that refused to die. They were hunting her own pack, the ones who once called her slave, the ones who said she wasn't worth the breath she stole. Lightning cracked across the sky, and for a heartbeat, her shadow stretched long across the forest floor, thin, desperate, ghostly. The rain turned the earth into mud, pulling at her legs with every step. Her lungs screamed for mercy, but she couldn't stop. Not now. Not when freedom was only as far as the next breath. She stumbled over a root and hit the ground hard. Pain flared up her arm as her palm scraped against the dirt and stone. The world spun, and for a dizzy moment, she saw nothing but darkness. And then, the moon broke through the clouds. Its light washed over her like silver fire, glinting against the blood that streaked her skin. In the reflection of a nearby stream, she saw her face. Hollow eyes, cracked lips, and a wildness that didn't belong to any slave. Her heart pounded so loud it drowned out the storm. For the first time, she didn't see a victim. She saw a spark. Something ancient, something the chains had failed to crush. But before she could understand it, a low growl split the air. Close, too close. Her head snapped up. Shadows moved between the trees. Fast, deliberate, hungry. The scent of wolves filled the air, thick and iron-sweet. Her body tensed, every instinct screamed at her to run, but her legs betrayed her. She pressed her hand against her ribs, trying to silence the whimper that escaped her throat. They said I was born cursed, her thoughts whispered, trembling and raw. Maybe they were right. The forest seemed to breathe with her fear. The wind hissed through the leaves, whispering secrets she didn't want to hear. The rain mixed with her tears. She couldn't tell one from the other anymore. And then, she heard it. A single voice. Male. Rough as gravel, deep as thunder. Found you. Her blood froze. Branches cracked behind her. The world narrowed. Heartbeat, breath, rain. She pushed herself up, slipping on the mud, scrambling for anything, any direction, any escape. But there was nowhere left to go. The wolves circled, yellow eyes glowing from the darkness. They moved as one, a deadly rhythm of muscle and hunger. At their center stood the pack's beta, smirking beneath the storm, his claws dripping with her scent. The alpha wants you alive, he sneered, voice slicing through the downpour. But he didn't say in what condition. Lyra's fingers dug into the mud. Anger flickered where fear used to live. A lifetime of pain burned behind her eyes. The nights chained to the cold stone floor, the lashes that carved stories into her skin, the endless whispers of slave, filth, omega trash, no more. She wouldn't die on her knees. She rose slowly, body shaking, breath shallow, rainwater cascading down her hair. For the first time, her gaze didn't drop. Her voice came out low, hoarse but steady. If he wants me, she whispered, he'll have to come himself. The beta snarled. You'll regret that, whore. He lunged. And something deep within her, snapped. The moment his claws slashed toward her, the air rippled. A surge of heat exploded from her chest, spreading through her veins like wildfire. The rain sizzled as it touched her skin. The ground trembled. And the wolves, the same ones who'd called her weak, stumbled back in sudden fear. Light poured from her hands, faint at first, then blinding, silver and alive, flickering like a living flame. The beta froze mid-step, eyes wide. The light licked across his fur, searing through it until he collapsed, howling in confusion. Lyra stood there, chest heaving, her hands trembling with raw energy she didn't understand. The light faded as quickly as it came, leaving smoke in the air and silence behind. She looked at her palms, at the faint glow still pulsing beneath her skin. What? Am I? But before she could take another breath, the sound of more footsteps shattered the quiet. Heavy, determined. Not the wild rhythm of wolves. This was something else, something more dangerous. Through the storm came a tall figure cloaked in black, rain cascading down his shoulders like liquid shadow. His presence silenced the others before he even spoke. His eyes, silver, sharp, unreadable, locked onto her, and for the first time in her life, Lyra felt something worse than fear. Recognition. He knew her. Every instinct screamed that he shouldn't, that no alpha, no man, should look at her like that, not with hunger, not with pity, not with the weight of destiny. But he did. The wolves bowed their heads the moment he stepped into the clearing. Even the rain seemed to pause, as if waiting for his command. He walked toward her slowly, boots sinking into the mud, every step deliberate. Enough, his voice rumbled, deep, calm, but carrying a power that made the trees tremble. The pack scattered instantly, fading into the shadows until it was just him and her. Lyra's pulse hammered in her ears. Every instinct told her to run again, to disappear before this man, this alpha, decided she was just another tool to be used. But something in his gaze stopped her. Not cruelty, not dominance. Something else. Something she didn't recognize. Lyra, he said softly, her name, spoken like a secret. She froze. How do you... But the words died on her tongue. He smiled faintly, though it didn't reach his eyes. Because I've been looking for you. Her stomach twisted. Fear, curiosity, anger, all at once. Lightning illuminated his face, sharp jaw, scars cutting across one cheek, eyes that burned brighter than the storm. This was no ordinary alpha, and she realized then. Her escape had never been chanced. It was a hunt, and she wasn't just prey. She was the reason the world had begun to tremble. He reached a hand toward her, slow, patient. Come with me, he murmured. Before they return. Her voice cracked. Why? To chain me again? A shadow of pain crossed his face. To free you. Rain poured harder, drowning the silence between them. Lyra took a step back, torn between instinct and something deeper. A pull she couldn't name, an ache that burned brighter than her fear. She wanted to believe him, but belief had always been her downfall. Still, as the storm raged on, something inside whispered that this man wasn't lying. That he, too, carried scars only the moon could see. And when she looked into his eyes, she didn't see an alpha. She saw a promise, the promise of fire, the promise of change, the promise that maybe, just maybe, the girl who'd been treated like nothing was destined to become everything. The thunder rolled, shaking the earth beneath them, and as the scene faded into the sound of rain and heartbeat, the narrator's voice deepened, smooth, haunting, and soft as silk. If you can feel her heartbeat in your own, if you've ever been broken, betrayed, or underestimated, then you already know how this story burns. Subscribe to Moonlight Mate Stories, where every shadow hides a love worth fighting for. Rain still fell like shards of broken glass from the heavens. The forest breathed, damp, ancient, alive. Shadows clung to the trees like watchers, whispering secrets only the wind could carry. And there she was, Lyra, broken, shaking, barefoot in the mud, with her pulse thundering in her throat. Every breath came ragged, like it cost her something, every heartbeat, a reminder that she shouldn't be alive. Her fingers dug into the bark of a tree, cold water dripping from her hair into her eyes. She didn't even bother to wipe it away. The world was noise and fear, and the bitter taste of freedom that felt like death. Then, everything stopped. A sound. Low, deep, primal. A growl that didn't belong to the wind. It rolled through the night like thunder crawling across the ground. Lyra froze. Her body knew that sound long before her mind did. The sound of power, of dominance, of something or someone who didn't run from danger. Her eyes darted around the trees, searching, and then she saw him. A massive black wolf stood at the edge of the clearing, fur slick with rain, eyes burning gold through the darkness. He looked carved from the night itself, a creature born to rule it. Lyra's breath hitched, every instinct screamed at her to run, but her legs refused. Her body trembled, not from fear this time. Something deeper, something wild. That gaze held her like a spell, and she realized. The forest had gone silent. Even the wind had stopped. The wolf stepped forward, muscles rippling under his soaked fur. One more step, and before her eyes, his form began to change. Bones cracked softly, reshaping. Fur retreated into skin. And standing before her now, tall, broad, scarred, was a man. Alpha Kael. His name carried through every whisper of the territories. The beast who led the Shadow Moon Pack, the ruthless one, the conqueror. And now he stood before her. The storm itself reflected in his eyes. He took a slow breath, rain running down his bare chest, each droplet tracing the ridges of scars and strength. His voice broke the silence like a growl softened by restraint. "You shouldn't be out here, Luna." The word hit her like a blade. Her head jerked up. "I'm no Luna." Her voice cracked, barely more than a whisper. "I'm nothing." Kyle's expression didn't change, only his gaze, sharper now, studying her as if peeling away the layers of lies he'd been forced to wear. He moved closer, slow, deliberate, until his shadow swallowed hers. "Then why?" he said, his tone dropping lower, rougher. "Does the moon answer to you?" Her breath caught. What are you talking about?" He didn't answer. Instead, he reached forward, just enough for his fingers to brush against her neck. The moment his skin met hers, the world shifted. A pulse of silver light shimmered beneath her skin, faint but alive. The mark she'd hidden her whole life, glowing softly, betraying her. Lyra gasped and stumbled back, pressing her hand to it. "No, it's not." Kael's gaze darkened, but not with anger, with recognition. Something unspoken passed between them, a silent knowing, ancient and dangerous. The rain softened, as if even the sky held its breath. For a moment, there was nothing but the sound of her heartbeat and the quiet rasp of his breathing. He took another step closer, close enough that she could feel the heat radiating off his body, close enough that his scent, pine, rain, and something purely wolf, wrapped around her. "Who did this to you?" he asked softly, his eyes flicking to the bruises on her arms, the blood on her dress. She tried to speak, but the words stuck in her throat. She wanted to tell him everything, the chains, the beatings, the years of silence. But the pain was too heavy, the shame too old. He seemed to understand anyway, because the next sound he made wasn't words, it was a growl, low, deadly, the kind that promised retribution, but beneath it, something else, a vow. Lyra swallowed hard. "You shouldn't care. I'm no one, a slave, a mistake." Kyle's jaw tightened, his eyes burned brighter. He leaned closer, voice a whisper against the rain. "Don't ever say that again." Something in his tone, raw, commanding, made her chest ache. For the first time in years, someone wasn't looking at her like dirt. He was looking at her like something worth protecting. The air between them thickened, heavy with questions, danger, and something that felt dangerously close to hope. Then the sound-lepstant howls tore through the forest. Kael's head snapped up, eyes narrowing. "They're tracking you," he muttered. "Your scent is everywhere." Lyra's heart leapt into her throat. "They'll kill me." Kael turned to her, his expression shifting from curiosity to command. "Not tonight." Before she could protest, he moved. One moment he was in front of her, the next his arm swept her off the ground like she weighed nothing. She gasped, gripping his shoulders. "Put me down." His gaze met hers, steady, unflinching. "You want to live?" Her lips parted, the words catching in her chest. "Yes." Then trust me." Lightning flashed, thunder followed, and with a strength that felt beyond mortal, Kael sprinted into the storm, carrying her as if she was the most precious thing in the world. The forest blurred around them, trees, shadows, rain. She could feel his heart pounding against her back, each beat syncing with her own. The wind whipped through her hair, but all she could hear was his breathing. Controlled, powerful, unyielding. She glanced up at him, her fingers unconsciously tightening around his cloak. "Why are you helping me?" she shouted over the storm. He didn't answer right away. Then, slowly, as if to himself, "Because the moon doesn't make mistakes." The words hit something deep inside her, and even though she didn't believe it, for one fragile moment, she wanted to. In the storm's embrace, two fates collided, one bound by chains, the other by destiny. But what neither knew was that the moon was watching, and she had already chosen her queen. The rain had softened to a mist by the time Kael reached the ridge. The trees thinned, revealing a hollow bathed in pale silver light. A waterfall spilled from black stone, steaming faintly where it met the pool below, the healing springs. He lowered Lyra gently beside the water, his breath still ragged from the run. For a long moment, neither spoke. Only the steady rush of the falls filled the silence. Lyra's fingers trembled as they touched the wet earth. Her body hurt everywhere, but it was the quiet that frightened her most. Quiet meant she could hear herself, and she didn't want to. Kael knelt a few feet away, his back to her. The moonlight traced the scars across his shoulders, old wounds, deep and unhealed. There was a heaviness in almost two, a war carried in silence. Lyra closed her eyes. For the first time in years, she was safe enough to remember, and memory was its own kind of pain, almost like a whisper breaking through her thoughts. She'd been 10 when the pack guards came for her parents. She still remembered the sound, not the growl of wolves, but the crackle of fire as the Alpha's men dragged them through the village. Witchblood, they called her mother. Moon touched. Her father tried to fight. One swipe of claws and he was gone. They'd tied her mother to the post. The crowd gathered, faces she knew all her life staring without pity. Lyra had screamed until her voice broke. No one helped. And when the flames rose, her mother's last words weren't of fear, but warning. "Hide the fire, my little moon. They'll come for you next." That night, Lyra's childhood ended. The Alpha, proud, cruel, untouchable, took her in, not as a daughter of the pack, but as property. They branded her wrist with the mark of servitude. Every dawn, she woke to scrub floors slick with blood. Every night, she slept in the kennels beside the hounds. And the worst part wasn't the pain. It was invisible. Years blurred, bruises healed, only to be replaced. Hope died quietly, like embers suffocating Werash, until the claiming ceremony. It had been her one moment to dream. Every unmated wolf stood beneath the full moon, hearts open, waiting to feel that spark, the pull of destiny that bound two souls as mates. Lyra had gone only because she was ordered to clean afterward. She hadn't expected her wolf to stir, but it did. When her eyes met his, the Alpha's son, her heart stopped. The bond hit her like lightning. Her wolf howled inside her, clawing to reach him. He had felt it too. She saw the flicker in his eyes, confusion, disbelief, then disgust. He laughed, loud, cruel, so everyone could hear. A slave, the moon goddess must be broken. And just like that, he rejected her, before she could even speak. The bond shattered, her heart with it. The pack roared with laughter. She ran before they could see her cry. That night, they whipped her for disrespect. Next, they took away her name. She stopped speaking entirely after that, stopped dreaming, stopped believing the moon ever saw her at all. Until the fire. It was a winter night, the pack drunk on bloodlust after a hunt. They'd chained her again, accused her of poisoning a guard's drink. She didn't, but no one cared. They dragged her to the pit. Silver chains bit into her wrists. The Alpha's whip cracked across her back, once, twice, again. By the fifth, something broke, but not in her, in the air. She'd screamed, not from pain, but fury, the kind that tore through the bones of the world. And suddenly, the silver didn't burn her, it melted. Flames, pale as moonlight, erupted from her skin. The chains turned to liquid. The ground scorched. Wolves fell back in terror, and in their eyes, she saw what she'd been waiting to see her whole life, fear. She didn't stay to watch them burn. She ran, and she never looked back. Now, as Lyra knelt by the springs, her hands trembling above the glowing water, she could still feel that fire humming beneath her scars. Quiet now, but alive, like it was waiting. Kael turned toward her, his gaze unreadable. "You carry pain like armor," he said quietly. Lyra didn't look up. "It's the only thing that ever stayed with me." He studied her for a long time. Then his eyes dropped to the faint shimmer beneath her skin, the mark that glowed earlier. "Tell me something," he said, his voice lowering. "When did the fire first answer you?" Her fingers brushed the edge of the pool, ripples distorting her reflection. "The night they tried to kill me," she whispered. "The night I stopped being afraid." Kael's jaw tightened. He looked away, his breath slow, deliberate, as if fighting something inside him. "What is it?" she asked. He didn't answer. Not right away. Then softly, "You shouldn't exist." The words cut, her heart stuttered. "What?" Kael's eyes met hers, fierce, tortured. "There's a prophecy," he said, "an ancient one. It speaks of a child born under a blood eclipse, carrying the fire of the moon goddess and the rage of the first wolf. A being who would bring the end of alphas." He paused. "My father spent his life hunting her." His gaze darkened. "I was born to finish the job." Lyra's breath caught, her pulse thundered. "You mean me?" Kael said nothing. The silence was enough. The truth pressed between them like a blade, cold and inevitable. He'd saved her, protected her. But destiny demanded her death. Her throat tightened. "Then why didn't you kill me?" His voice was low, almost broken. "Because I don't believe in fate, not anymore." The words hung in the air, heavy as rain-soaked air. Lyra's chest ached, torn between terror and something she didn't dare name. He was supposed to destroy her, yet when he looked at her, he didn't see a curse. He saw her. Kael reached into the water, his fingers brushing hers by accident, or maybe not. The moment they touched, warmth surged between them. The pool shimmered faintly, silver light spreading like breath through the mist. He pulled back first. "Your power isn't meant for destruction," he murmured. "It's meant for balance." They twisted protectory to justify their fear. Lyra met his gaze, voice trembling. "And you? Are you afraid of me too?" Kael exhaled slowly. "I'm afraid of what I'll do to protect you." The words cracked something inside her. For years, every look she'd known carried hate or pity. Never this, never danger laced with tenderness. She wanted to move away, but her heart wouldn't let her. He reached out again, gently tilting her chin upward. The calluses on his fingers scraped against her skin, grounding her in the present. "Whoever they told you to be," he said softly, "forget it. The moon doesn't waste her light." Lyra blinked back tears. Her voice barely whispers. "You don't know what I've done." "I don't care," he said. "I know what you are." The air trembled, not with magic this time, but with truth. That night, under the broken clouds, the moon peeked out, just for a heartbeat. Her light touched Lyra's skin, and the mark on her neck blazed bright enough to turn night into dawn. Kael didn't flinch. He didn't run. He watched, eyes burning gold against her silver glow, as destiny unfolded before him. Two enemies, two halves of a prophecy, bound not by choice, but by something older than gods. And in that silence, where fate held its breath, Lyra finally saw what her mother meant. The fire wasn't her curse, it was her crown. In the heart of every hunted thing lies a truth too dangerous to kill, a light that refuses to die. And tonight, under the eyes of the moon, that light began to burn. The path wound upward through the forest, narrow and unlit, except by the faint glow of moss clinging to stone. The air had changed, colder, thinner. The kind of air that carried memory. Kael walked ahead, silent but alert, his broad frame cutting a path through the shadows. Lyra followed, her steps light, wary. Every leaf seemed to whisper her name. Every gust of wind brushed against her, as though recognizing her. They had been walking for hours. The storm had passed, but the air was heavy, humming with something alive, something watching. Above them, the moon bled red through the haze. Kael stopped at the crest of a ridge. Below them stretched a valley. Dark stone, broken pillars, fragments of a temple swallowed by roots and time. The ruins glimmered faintly, as if the stones remembered light, even after centuries of darkness. Lyra's breath caught. What is this place? Kael's gaze was fixed on the altar at the heart of the ruin, a slab of black obsidian shaped like a crescent moon, carved with runes that shimmered faintly silver. The Temple of Selene, he said, built before the first pacts were formed, before the goddess stopped walking among us. He turned to her, his golden eyes reflecting the dying moonlight. This is where it began. The fire, the curse, the prophecy. Narrator tone slows, reverent, measured, as though each word is a step deeper into sacred ground. They descended into the valley. The air grew dense, charged. The ruins breathed. Lyra could feel it. Every heartbeat echoed against the stones. With each step closer, her chest tightened. Something inside her stirred, restless, aware. Kael led her to the altar. He hesitated, scanning the shadows around them, listening. Then he nodded, almost to himself. "She'll come," he murmured. "She always does when the moon bleeds." "She," Lyra whispered. Before he could answer, a figure emerged from the mist. A woman, old as time, her hair white as bone, her eyes pale blue fire. The priestess. Her feet barely touched the ground as she approached. Her voice, when it came, was a whisper that seemed to crawl through the air. "The child of the flame returns." Lyra froze. The woman smiled faintly. "You bear the mark of the lost line. The silver fire that once crowned queens and burned tyrants. You hid it long enough." Lyra shook her head, backing away. "No. You're mistaken. I don't even know what that means." The priestess raised a trembling hand and pointed toward the altar. "Then let the stone speak for you." Kael touched her shoulder gently. "You don't have to—" But Lyra stepped forward before he could finish. Something deep inside her wanted to know, needed to. The altar hummed as she neared it, a soft vibration in the air. Her skin prickled. Her mark, the faint crescent near her collarbone, began to glow again, pulsing in rhythm with the earth itself. When she placed her hand on the obsidian surface, the world shifted. Light exploded. The ruins blazed alive. Symbols carved into every wall flared to life, swirling in silver patterns that danced like living flame. The air rippled with power. And then the voice came, not a voice of flesh and blood, not of air or sound. It spoke inside her, ancient, commanding, both mother and storm. "The slave shall rise," Lyra gasped, stumbling back. The ground pulsed beneath her feet, alive with silver veins. "The moon shall kneel." She clutched her head, eyes wide. Images flooded her mind, visions burning brighter than the sun. A throne of bone and light, wolves kneeling in shadow. A queen crowned not with gold, but fire. And beside her, Kael. His eyes were golden, his hands were bloodied, and behind him, betrayal. Her breath hitched. "No, you are the flame that breaks the chains," the voice whispered. "You are the storm they feared." Lyra fell to her knees, gasping, her heart pounding so hard it hurt. The visions wouldn't stop. They twisted and burned, power and destruction, love and ruin, all bound together. She saw cities of wolves kneeling, rivers of silver light, and the moon itself bowing to her fire. It was too much. "I'm not her," she whispered. "I'm not that monster." Kael was beside her in an instant, catching her as she nearly collapsed. his arms wrapped around her trembling frame, grounding her against the chaos. "Breathe," he murmured, voice steady, rough with concern. The air shimmered around them, flickering like embers ready to consume. She looked up at him, tears streaming down her cheeks. "I saw it, Kael. I saw everything. Fire, blood, you." His brow furrowed. "Me?" "You were there," she whispered, "at my side, but you turned away." Kael's expression faltered, guilt, pain, something unspoken flickering across his face. "I don't believe in visions," he said, but his voice betrayed him. "You should," the priestess murmured. "They're not glimpses of what must be, only of what could be." Lyra turned to her. "Then why me? Why this power?" "I never wanted it." The priestess smiled, faint, knowing. "Power rarely asks permission, child. It chooses the one who suffered enough to wield it without mercy." Lyra's stomach knotted. "I don't want to hurt anyone." "Then don't," Kael said softly. She looked at him, eyes wide, desperate. "You don't understand. That fire inside me, it wants to burn." Kael's hand found hers, strong, steady. "Then maybe," he said, "it's time you stop fighting it. Maybe you were never the monster. Maybe they were." The altar dimmed, but the marks carved into its surface continued to pulse faintly, syncing with Lyra's heartbeat. The priestess circled them slowly, her bare feet leaving prints of light on the stone. "The world remembers the fire," she said, "but it forgot why it burned. The moon goddess made you in the image of balance, not destruction." She looked at Kael. "And you, alpha of the last flame, were meant to stand beside her or fall before her. That choice remains." Kael's eyes flickered with restrained emotion. "You think fate can be changed?" The priestess smiled faintly. "Even the moon changes its face." Lyra's fingers tightened around his hand, her voice barely a whisper. "I don't want to be a weapon." He turned to her. "Then don't be. Be the one who ends the war that made you one." Something in her chest cracked open. Not pain this time, but something softer, deeper. Hope. The blood moon hung directly above them now, its crimson light spilling over the altar like liquid fire. Lyra stepped forward again, guided by something unseen. She raised her palms toward the sky, and for a moment, everything, wind, light, time, stilled. Then, slowly, the red began to fade from the moon. Its silver glow returned, pure, radiant. The fire beneath her skin calmed. The stones cooled. The ruins, once haunted, exhaled. Kael watched her, awe in his eyes, reverence he couldn't hide. The mark on her neck had changed. It no longer flickered weakly. It burned steady, like it had finally accepted her. When she turned toward him, her eyes glowed faintly silver, calm but unyielding. "Tell me what this means," she said. Kael exhaled slowly. "It means the prophecy has started, and whether you want to or not, the Pax will come for you." Lyra looked up at the moon, its light tracing the tears on her face. "Let them come." The priestess watched as they left the temple, her eyes shimmering with something between pride and sorrow. As their figures disappeared into the forest, she whispered to the night, "The flame walks again, and the world shall tremble for it." The wind carried her words into the dark, into the waiting trees, into the hearts of those who still remembered the first fire. And far above, the moon goddess, unseen, smiled. Because destiny, once forgotten, had begun to move again, the night burns red. The air is thick with the scent of iron, fur, and betrayal. Lyra's knees barely hold as the world she thought she could finally trust shatters around her. The blood moon hangs low above the ruins, heavy and swollen, watching like a cruel god. The priestess's chant is cut short by the sudden crack of an arrow slicing the wind. Then, impact, a gasp, a body falls, and the sacred silence of the ancient altar explodes into chaos. Wolves roar. Blades clash, men shout. The ground trembles beneath the weight of shifting bodies and pounding hearts. Lyra spins, the silver light still glowing beneath her skin, wild and terrified. Kael shouts something, but his voice is drowned by the fury of his warriors. She's the cursed one, a soldier bellows, pointing straight at her. The prophecy's plague. Another arrow hisses past her cheek. She flinches, stumbling backward. Her bare feet slide against blood-soaked stone. The markings on the altar pulse. Her power, unwanted, unasked for, thrums through every scar on her skin. Stop! Kael's command breaks through the storm, alpha power lacing his voice like lightning. His pack falters, but only for a heartbeat. Then the beta steps forward, eyes burning with hate. She bewitched you, Alpha. She's the one the moon goddess warned us about. Lyra's pulse stutters. Bewitched, she wants to laugh, to scream. She's never had power over anyone. Never even had the right to speak without permission. And now they think she controls him. The absurdity of it almost makes her dizzy. Kael bares his teeth, his voice low, dangerous. Watch your tongue. But even he can't stop what's coming. The beta lunges. Wolves surge from the shadows, fur bristling, fangs bared. Lyra's body moves before her mind can. Instinct, or maybe fear, takes control. A scream tears from her throat, raw and desperate, and the silver fire bursts from her palms. The world erupts in light. Flames not of this earth roar outward, spiraling across the ground. The altar cracks. The ancient carvings burn white-hot, the stones splitting under divine power. Wolves yelp, recoiling. Warriors drop their weapons. The scent of singed fur fills the air. Kael shields his face with his arm, his cloak catching fire at the edges, but he doesn't move. He stays between her and his pack, and for a split second she sees his eyes, not with fear but awe, like he's looking at something sacred. The fire dies as quickly as it came, leaving only smoke, ash, and silence. Lyra's breath comes in ragged gasps. Her hands tremble, blistered and glowing faintly. No one speaks. Even the forest holds its breath. Then, a low, trembling voice. Witch. Another joins in. Monster. She killed the priestess. She'll kill us all. Enough, Kael roars, but his command no longer holds them. His beta growls, stepping closer. You're protecting her. After everything? You've gone mad. And in Kael's hesitation, in that single moment of doubt, Lyra feels her heart break. She sees it in his eyes. The war between what he feels and what he's been raised to believe. He wants to save her, but he also wants to be the alpha his pack can trust. She whispers, voice barely there. I should have known. No alpha ever saves a slave. Her body moves before she can think. She runs, bare feet pounding against cold earth, tears mixing with the rain. The forest swallows her whole. Behind her, Kael shouts her name, but she doesn't look back. Because she's heard that tone before. It's the sound of someone who's already lost her. The rain falls harder now. Every drop feels like a blade cutting through her skin. The night smells of smoke and sorrow. Branches claw at her arms as she crashes through the woods. Her lungs burn, her legs scream for mercy, but she can't stop. She won't. She's not running for freedom anymore. She's running from heartbreak, from the truth that even when someone touches her gently, even when someone looks at her like she matters, it always ends in fire. Her reflection flashes in the silver puddles she splashes through. The same eyes that once looked dull and broken now burn with power. She hates it. She hates herself. She hates the prophecy that turned her life into a nightmare. But above all, she hates the way her heart still aches for the alpha who hesitated. Somewhere behind her, the sound of pursuit grows fainter. Wolves howl, but none come near. Maybe even they fear the thing she's become. When she finally collapses, she lands in mud and tears. The silver fire inside her flickers weakly, like a dying candle. The forest is quiet. Only the distant rumble of thunder answers her sobs. She presses her forehead to the ground. Moon goddess. Why me? And though no voice answers, the wind stirs through the trees, whispering something ancient, something like, because you were never meant to kneel. Her breath catches. For a second, she wonders if she imagined it. But then, the ground beneath her hand glows faintly. A sigil, the same as on the altar. She jerks her hand back, heart pounding. The silver light crawls up her arm, dancing over her scars, drawing patterns she doesn't understand. Her veins burn, her vision blurs. She gasps as power surges through her, not violent this time, but awakening. It's as if something ancient within her has finally opened its eyes. And somewhere far away, Kael feels it too. He stumbles in the rain, clutching his chest as if the bond itself is pulling him toward her. Lyra, he breathes. The beta turns toward him. Alpha, she's gone. Forget her. Kael's jaw tightens. You don't understand. No, you don't, the beta snarls. That girl will be the end of you. The prophecy. The prophecy can burn, Kael growls, eyes blazing gold. The storm howls louder as two fates split into opposite directions, one running from her destiny, the other chasing it. The moon hides again behind thick clouds, as though afraid to witness what comes next. And deep beneath the earth, where the roots of the world remember all things, something ancient begins to stir. Because when the child of the flame awakens, even gods hold their breath. And as her tears mixed with the rain, Lyra didn't know that her pain had just rewritten the fate of every living wolf. The fire she feared was never her curse, it was her crown. The night had quieted into a breathless kind of silence, the kind that comes after storms, when the world holds its breath, afraid to move. Lyra's small body shivered inside the frozen cave. Her torn dress clung to her skin, soaked and stiff from rain. Her wounds had stopped bleeding, but only because the cold had numbed everything. The pain, the fear, even the trembling beat of her heart. She pressed her back against the stone wall, every inhale a shallow scrape against her ribs. The cave smelled of damp earth and loneliness. Outside, the forest whispered, the low growl of wind through pines, the faint call of distant wolves. She knew he would come. Kael. Of course he would. That man had haunted every shadow since the night he found her. Her eyes fluttered closed. The bond hummed faintly beneath her skin, quiet but unbroken. No matter how far she ran, that invisible thread always tugged her back toward him. Part of her wished it would snap. The other part prayed it never would. The sound of footsteps reached her first, slow, heavy, deliberate. Not a wolf's tread, but a man's. Then his voice, low, quiet, cautious. Lyra. Her head jerked up. The flickering fire she'd built sputtered at the sound of his name. She tried to rise, but her body betrayed her, collapsing back against the stone. Go away, she rasped. You've done enough. Kael stepped into the faint light. His cloak was torn, his face streaked with mud and blood, eyes burning gold in the half-dark. If I meant to kill you, he said softly, I would have done it already. Lyra's laugh came out broken, half a sob. Then what do you want from me, Kael? You've got your pack, your throne, your laws. What could you possibly want from me? He didn't answer at first, just looked at her, really looked, not like an alpha studying a threat, but like a man trying to remember how to be human. Finally he said, the truth, and maybe, forgiveness. The words hung in the air like smoke. Forgiveness. It was such a simple word, and yet it carried centuries of pain. Lyra turned her face away, her eyes glistening in the firelight. You think saying sorry can undo what your kind did to me, to my parents. You burned us alive, Kael. You stood there while they screamed. His jaw tightened. I was a child. You were the Alpha's heir, she spat. You could have stopped it. His silence was answer enough. The wind moaned through the mouth of the cave. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. Then Kael did something she didn't expect. He knelt, right there in the mud, before her, the great Alpha of the Black Ridge pack, on his knees. Maybe I couldn't stop it then, he said quietly, but I can protect you now, if you'll let me. Lyra's throat constricted. She wanted to scream, to laugh, to shove him away. But when his hand reached out, rough, scarred, trembling, she didn't move. His fingers brushed a cut on her arm. Warmth spread through her veins, his touch gentle, healing. Her pulse betrayed her. Why? she whispered. Why me? Kael's eyes softened, the alpha fading into the man beneath. Because every time you run, the world grows darker. Because when I saw you burn that night, I thought I was looking at the end of everything I'd ever believed. But when I found you alive, I realized it wasn't the end. It was the beginning. Lyra swallowed hard. The firelight painted gold on his skin, tracing the angles of his face, the scar running along his jaw. She remembered the stories. How he'd fought a rogue alpha bare-handed at 17. How he'd never bowed to anyone. Yet here he was, kneeling in front of the girl everyone called cursed. She wanted to believe him. She wanted to trust him. But trust was a luxury she'd never been allowed to afford. Her voice broke. I don't know how. Kael's thumb grazed her cheek, wiping away a tear before it could fall. Then don't think, just feel. Her breath hitched. For the first time, she saw not the alpha, but the man behind the title, the one who carried too many ghosts and too little peace. His eyes searched hers like he was trying to read the language of her soul. You were never a slave, Lyra, he murmured. You were always the flame. The words cut deeper than any blade, because they were true. She felt it, that power humming under her skin, the one she'd spent her whole life hiding. And now, this man, this impossible, maddening alpha, looked at it like it was holy. Her lips parted, a shaky breath escaping. His face was so close she could taste his breath. Warm, steady, alive. Every inch between them crackled with heat. His hand slid to the back of her neck, slow, reverent. Her pulse leapt. For a moment, she forgot the pain, the fear, the war waiting outside. There was only this. Two broken souls drawn together by something older than fate. He leaned closer, so close she could feel the tremor in his breath. And just as the world seemed to still, the moon shifted, the light pouring into the cave turned crimson, bathing them both in blood-red glow. Kael froze. His head snapped toward the entrance. Lyra's heart sank. What is it? He didn't answer. His pupils narrowed, body tense. The bond between them flared, sharp and cold. Outside, the forest began to whisper, not in wind, but in warning. The red moon was an omen, a sign of broken vows. Fate had interrupted again, because the gods weren't finished with them yet. The ground trembled. Somewhere in the distance, a horn blew, low, mournful, ancient. Kael's expression darkened. They've found us. Lyra pushed herself up, ignoring the pain lancing through her leg. Your pack? He shook his head. Worse, the council. Her breath caught, the council of elders, the same ones who had condemned her parents, the same who'd branded her bloodline cursed. They'll kill you if they find you with me, she said. Kael's jaw flexed. Then I won't let them find us. He helped her to her feet, wrapping his cloak around her shoulders. For a moment his hand lingered, not possessive but protective. Trust me, he said softly, just this once. Lyra looked up at him, the man who'd once been her nightmare now standing as her shield. She could hear her heartbeat in her ears. Every instinct screamed to run. Every wound begged her to stay. I don't know if I can. Kael met her gaze, unwavering. Then trust the bond. It's never lied. Her throat tightened. She wanted to deny it, but the bond pulsed in response, fierce and undeniable. She closed her eyes. If you betray me, Kael, I'll burn before I do, he whispered. And in that moment, something inside her cracked open. Not pain this time, but surrender. Not to him, but to something larger than both of them. Destiny. Together they stepped into the night, the blood-red moon painting their shadows long and trembling across the forest floor. Every step forward felt like walking a tightrope between love and disaster, and yet neither of them looked back. Because sometimes the only way to heal what's broken is to walk straight into the fire that made you. She'd spent her whole life running from her power, her pain, and her past. But now, standing beside the man who once represented everything she hated, Lyra began to see that maybe, just maybe, The same fire that destroyed her was also the one that could set her free. The cave breathed cold against her skin. Frost clung to the walls like memories refusing to fade. Lyra's body trembled, the pain from her wounds pulsing in time with her heartbeat. Slow, uneven, defiant. Each inhale felt like swallowing shards of ice. Each exhale, a whisper of the girl she used to be. She pressed her back against the stone, trying to will her shivers into silence. But the storm outside had not quieted. It only moved closer, howling through the forest like a chorus of ghosts. And beneath that sound, she heard footsteps. Heavy, steady, familiar. Her breath caught. Her pulse began to race before her mind even dared to hope. Then, a shadow filled the entrance. He stepped through the darkness like it belonged to him. Kael, the Alpha, the man whose touch had felt like both fire and safety. His presence filled the small space, not just with size, but with something deeper. Power, sadness, the weight of too many choices made in blood. The fire she'd built sputtered when his boots hit the wet stone. He didn't speak, didn't demand, didn't roar like the monster her nightmares painted him to be. He just looked at her, and in that silence, something raw passed between them. Lyra broke first. Her voice was sharp, brittle. Came to finish what they started. Kael's golden eyes flickered in the firelight. Not anger, not pity. Something else. Something she didn't know how to name. "If I meant to kill you," he said quietly, "I would have done it already." His words weren't a threat. They were a truth. Lyra let out a bitter laugh, one that hurt more than it healed. "Then what do you want from me, Kael? You've already taken everything." He took a step closer. The air seemed to tighten around them. "The truth," he said, then softer. "And maybe forgiveness." The word hit her harder than any blow. Forgiveness. How easily he said it. How impossible it sounded. Lyra looked away, blinking against the sting in her eyes. Forgiveness is for people who can forget. Kael's voice deepened, quiet thunder in the stillness. "Then remember with me." He knelt beside her, the alpha of the most feared pack in the northern lands, on his knees before a woman the world called cursed. Steam rose from his cloak where the rain still clung to it. His scent, pine, storm, iron, filled the air, grounding her even as her thoughts tried to scatter. Lyra's fingers curled into her palms. "You shouldn't be here." He almost smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "Neither should you." She turned toward the fire, its light dancing over her face, catching on the faint shimmer of the silver scars along her arm. The ones she'd stopped hiding. The ones that burned whenever the moon called her name. "I don't trust you," she whispered. "I know." "Then why stay?" Kael's gaze didn't waver. "Because I can't walk away from you." The simplicity of it cut through her defenses. He reached out slowly, as though afraid she might vanish if he moved too fast. His hand brushed her hair from her face, fingers rough, trembling. His thumb grazed her cheek, leaving warmth where the cold had lived for too long. Her pulse stuttered. She should have pulled away, but the bond, that damned, invisible bond, hummed between them, steady as a heartbeat. The silence between them changed. It wasn't empty anymore. It was full, of breath, of memory, of everything they hadn't said since the night their fates collided. Lyra drew in a shaky breath. "Do you even know what they did to me?" "I know," Kael said softly. "I saw it." Her eyes snapped to his. "You watched it happen." He didn't deny it. His voice was quiet, almost breaking. "I was a boy, a coward. My father said it was justice. I didn't understand what kind of monster justice could be until it was too late." Lyra's throat ached. "You expect me to believe you're sorry?" "I don't expect you to believe anything," he said, "but I can't undo the fire that took your parents. I can only stand in the one that still burns in you." Her breath hitched. He wasn't lying. She could hear it, feel it in the bond that tied their souls. "Why me?" she whispered. "Why care?" Kael's eyes darkened. "Because when you ran that night, I followed, because when you burned, I felt it too, and I've spent every night since trying to forget the sound of your scream." The confession landed heavy between them. Lyra's hand lifted, unthinking, trembling, and rested against his chest. She could feel his heart beneath her palm, strong, real. "You don't even know me," she said. "I know enough," he murmured. "I know the way your scent changes when you're afraid. I know the tremor in your voice when you try to hide your strength. I know that the moon itself bends closer when you bleed." Her pulse thudded in her throat. "You talk like I'm some prophecy." Kael's voice dropped, low, reverent. "You're not a prophecy, Lyra. You're proof." "Proof of what?" "That the gods haven't given up on us yet." For a heartbeat, the world stilled. Even the storm seemed to listen. She wanted to laugh, to cry, to hit him. Instead, she whispered, "You're wrong, Kael. I was never chosen. I was cursed." He leaned in, close enough that his breath brushed her skin. "Maybe curses are just misunderstood blessings." Her eyes lifted to his, and the air between them ignited. The space that had once felt dangerous now felt magnetic. His breath mingled with hers. Her fingers trembled where they still rested against his chest. He looked at her, not like an alpha claiming his mate, but like a man trying to memorize something he knew he wasn't allowed to keep. "You were never a slave," Kael whispered. "You were always the flame." The words stole the air from her lungs. Something deep inside her, buried beneath years of fear and obedience, stirred awake. It was the same thing that had burned her chains the night she escaped. Her power, her truth. And for a moment, under the flickering firelight, she let him see it. Their foreheads touched. The moment stretched, delicate as glass. He tilted his head, lips a breath away. The world narrowed to this. The rhythm of her heartbeat, the warmth of his hand at her neck, the tremor of something ancient pulling them closer. And then, the cave shuddered. A red glow spilled through the entrance, drenching them both in light. The moon. It had shifted. Lyra's eyes widened. "The blood moon." Kael's face hardened. "No. Not yet. It's too soon." The air thickened, vibrating with energy. The fire hissed and went out, smoke curling around them like ghostly fingers. Lyra staggered back, clutching her chest. The mark on her neck burned. Not softly this time, but violently, pulsing in sync with the crimson sky outside. "Kael, what's happening to me?" He caught her before she fell, his voice a low growl. "The moon's calling you. It's testing your bond." Her power surged, silver and red threads of light flickering beneath her skin. She gasped, trembling. "I can't stop it." "Don't fight it," he said, tightening his grip. "Let it come." Lyra's body arched, her scream echoing off the stone. The cave glowed like it was alive. Symbols carved into the walls ignited, their meanings lost to time. Kael held her, even as the heat seared his palms. The moment her power reached its peak, it stopped. Dead silence. Lyra collapsed against him, panting, skin shimmering faintly with the afterglow of magic. Kael's breath was ragged. His arm shook from holding her. Her voice was a whisper. "What was that?" He looked toward the red-lit forest. "A warning. Fate doesn't like to be defied." The wind howled again, but it sounded different now, sharper, angrier. Kael brushed her hair from her face, his thumb trembling. "We don't have much time. The council will see that light." Lyra looked up at him, exhaustion softening her defiance. "Why help me, Kael? You'll lose everything." He smiled faintly, broken and beautiful. "Then maybe it's time I did." Their gazes locked, 1,000 words unsaid, and though neither moved, the air between them burned hotter than any fire. Lyra whispered, "If you ever betray me..." He finished the sentence softly. "You'll burn me alive." She almost smiled. "You know I will." Kael nodded once. "Then we understand each other." The storm outside began to fade, leaving only the faint hum of distant thunder. They sat together in silence, the tension between them shifting from danger to something more fragile. Trust, or maybe the beginning of it. Lyra closed her eyes. The warmth of his presence wrapped around her, pushing back the cold. And for the first time in years, she didn't feel hunted, she didn't feel broken, she just felt seen. She didn't know what tomorrow would bring, whether he'd stand beside her or lead her to her doom. But for that one fragile night, the fire and the frost found peace, and under the bleeding moon, Lyra realized the cruelest truth of all. Sometimes the heart trusts the very hand that once held the knife. The battlefield burns with the scent of rain and blood. Wolves, once loyal to Kael's father, lie trembling under the light of a fractured moon. The air hums, alive, electric, trembling between worlds. And in the center of it all, she stands. Lyra, no longer the trembling slave girl in torn rags, no longer the creature running from shadows. She stands bathed in moonlight, hair wild and soaked with rain, skin painted with streaks of silver fire. The storm itself bends around her, drawn by something ancient, something that should not exist. And yet, here it is, pulsing in her chest like a living star. The wolves can smell it, divinity wrapped in fury. For a heartbeat, silence reigns. Then, a whisper cuts through the wind, old as the forest itself. Claim your crown, child of the flame. It isn't a voice from this world, it's many, hundreds, maybe thousands, a chorus of the ancestors. The air ripples with power as ghostly wolves appear around her, spectral and luminous, their forms made of smoke and starlight. They bow their heads. The pack gasps. Some drop to their knees instinctively, unable to bear the force of her presence. Kael stares at her, his golden eyes wide, torn between awe and fear. His hand grips his sword, but his knuckles are white, because even now he doesn't know if she is his salvation or his undoing. And then, a snarl rips through the chaos. From the shadows, Alpha Thorn, Kael's father, emerges. His fur glistens black as obsidian, his teeth bared, eyes burning with hate. His voice shakes the air, ancient, cruel, unyielding. Blasphemy! There is no moon in a slave's blood. He lunges, claws outstretched. The air shatters around them. Lyra doesn't move. She doesn't flinch. Her hand rises, slow, graceful, inevitable. And the moment his claws are about to strike, time stops. The rain freezes in the air. The wind halts. Even the wolf's heart seemed to forget how to beat. Her eyes open, glowing silver, threaded with flame. And when she speaks, her voice is layered, hers, and the echo of the ancestors who lived through every betrayal before her. You tried to silence me, but the moon remembers. Her words strike like thunder. Flame bursts from her palm, not wild or chaotic this time, but controlled. Royal. It wraps around Thorn like a serpent, burning through his shadow until all that remains is dust on the wind. The light fades. The battlefield stands still. Kael takes a step toward her, his breath uneven. His father's ashes still float between them, glowing faintly before the rain sweeps them away. He whispers, barely audible, "What are you?" Lyra looks at him, eyes fierce, sorrowful, alive. "You wanted the truth," she says, voice trembling between fury and grace. "I am not your curse, I am your queen." And then, the moon flares. It bursts into brilliance, flooding the valley in silver-white light so intense it blinds. The wolves howl, not in fear, but in surrender. Their bodies bow against their will, their souls bending to the new order written in her fire. Every heartbeat echoes her name. Every breath tastes like change. The mark on Kael's chest burns, the mate bond igniting in full. It sears him, claiming him, not as her master, not as her savior, but as her equal. He drops to his knees, eyes wet with disbelief, not because he was defeated, but because for the first time he understands what it means to follow instead of lead. The pack's howls rise higher, twining with the wind, a hymn to rebirth. Lyra's power pulses outward, lighting every drop of rain, and for a moment the battlefield transforms. Ashes turning to petals, blood to light. The dead wolves lift their heads one last time in spectral form, bowing to her before vanishing into the mist. The prophecy, the one whispered for centuries, breathes its last line through the storm. When the flame awakens, the crown shall bend, and the blood shall be cleansed. She closes her eyes. The fire dims, fading into the rhythm of her heart. Her chest heaves, not from exhaustion, but release. Centuries of pain undone in one breath. And yet, her tears fall, because she knows power is never free. Behind her, Kael rises. His gaze burns with devotion and terror. Lyra. He reaches for her, voice breaking. What happens now? She turns, her expression unreadable, part queen, part ghost, part girl, who once prayed under her breath for mercy. Now, she says softly, now we find out what it means to rule what we once feared. The wolves bow again, their heads low. But one, the youngest, dares to whisper, voice trembling. Long live the Moonfire Queen. The others echo it, a chant that grows and spreads through the valley, vibrating through the soil itself. Moonfire, Moonfire, Moonfire! The name burns into legend. Lyra lifts her face to the moon, whispering not to the pack, not to Kael, but to the goddess who had once ignored her prayers. You didn't answer me when I begged to be free, so I freed myself. The moon flickers, a pulse of approval or warning, and for the first time Lyra smiles, not with softness, not with relief, but with the terrible grace of someone who finally knows her worth, and is ready to defend it. The power hums beneath her skin, alive, dangerous, waiting. Kael steps closer, hesitant but drawn to her light like gravity itself. His voice breaks in the silence between heartbeats. You are fired, he says. Then burn with me, she answers. The air between them tightens. Heat, promise, pain, destiny. The bond surges again, deeper now, bound not by command but by choice. She doesn't flinch this time when his hand reaches her cheek. She lets him touch her, just once, before turning away. A queen can't afford to love, she murmurs. Not yet. Her voice trembles, but the strength in it is unshakable. And as she walks away through the ruins of a broken empire, the fire follows. Not destroying, but rebirthing. Grass grows through cracks, rivers run again. The moon's reflection gleams on the water, brighter than before. The prophecy was fulfilled, but destiny, it seems, has more chapters to write. Because, as she disappears into the forest, the last ember flickers in the wind, forming words that only the night can hear. This is not the end. This is the beginning of the reign of the Moonfire Queen. The battlefield is silent now, but silence here is not peace. It is the weight of everything left unsaid. The ashes of fear, betrayal, and fire. The silver glow of the moon bathes Lyra's figure, casting shadows that dance across the broken earth like memories refusing to die. Her cloak, once torn and sodden, now flutters with the wind, catching hints of her newfound power. She moves slowly, deliberately, each step a claim, a defiance, a whisper of sovereignty that makes even the air around her quiver. Kael kneels among the remnants of the pack's disarray, his chest rising and falling with ragged breaths. His eyes, golden and raw with emotion, follow her every movement, tracing her silhouette as if memorizing a painting painted with fire and sorrow. Guilt burns him from the inside, a fierce, gnawing ache that twists in his gut. Because he had failed her once, had hesitated when action might have saved a life, and yet he had survived her wrath, witnessed the unstoppable force she had become. Lyra stops a few paces from the center, her gaze lifting to the moon, silver and full, haloed with clouds like a crown itself. Her voice is barely a whisper, carried by the wind, soft enough that even Kael fears he might imagine it. Every crown has a price, even freedom. The words strike deeper than any sword. Freedom, the one thing she had longed for, dreamed of, and yet now bears it with the weight of responsibility that could crush a weaker soul. Her eyes glimmer, reflecting the pale moonlight, and Kael can see the fire still dancing beneath the surface. a tempest she has learned to wield but never to bend for anyone's comfort. Around them, the remaining wolves stir, hesitant, uncertain whether to approach the queen who had risen from their fear and ignorance. Some glance at Kael, the alpha torn between loyalty to the pack and devotion to the mate he had followed blindly until now. Every heartbeat in this quiet battlefield feels like a question, a choice, a turning of fate's page. Kael's voice breaks the silence, husky with desire, guilt, and awe all entwined. Lyra. She does not turn, not yet. Her hands flex at her sides, trembling subtly, not with fear, but with the remnants of all the battles fought, within her, around her, against her. "Do you see what you've done?" Kael continues, stepping forward, voice soft but edged with urgency. "You didn't just survive, you became—" He swallows the enormity of the truth pressing on him. "You became what they said you could never be. What I never allowed myself to see you could be." Lyra exhales slowly, a long, shivering breath that carries grief, rage, triumph, and exhaustion in equal measure. The wind sweeps through her hair, lifting strands like silver threads around her face, highlighting the sharp lines of her jaw, the delicate curve of her neck, and the faint glow of the mark that no longer hides. "I am what I am," she murmurs, voice low, almost sorrowful, almost sacred. "Not for you, not for them, not for anyone. And I will choose who stands beside me." Her eyes flick toward Kael. In that glance, he sees a challenge, a promise, a warning. It is the look of a queen who has clawed her way from the ashes of a life that tried to define her by fear and pain. It is the fire of someone who has claimed herself before the world had the chance to shape her into what it wanted her to be. He steps closer, his shadow falling across hers, and she flinches, not from him, but from the intensity of the bond that hums between them. The air vibrates, charged with unspoken words, shared losses, and the promise of a future that neither can yet fully name. I don't know if I can," Kael admits, voice rough with emotion. "I don't know if I'm allowed to be part of this, or if I even deserve it." Lyra turns fully toward him, eyes blazing. Silver flame ripples faintly across her skin, the last trace of the fire she summoned in battle still alive. "Deserve?" She laughs softly, bitter and melodic, echoing over the charred earth. "You don't deserve anything from me. You earn your place like everyone else, and even then—" Her gaze sweeps the battlefield, the broken ruins, the wolves kneeling in hesitant reverence. "Even then, your choice matters. Always. The path I take, the throne I claim, is mine. And yet, the one I allow beside me, that is mine to give." Kael's throat tightens, his eyes glimmer with unshed tears, his chest heaving, because he sees both the impossibility and inevitability of her words. To earn her trust, to stand beside her, would take more than courage. It would take surrender, not to her, but to the bond that has been forged in fire, blood, and storm. "And if I fail," he whispers, a raw edge of fear bleeding through. Lyra steps forward, closing the space between them. The heat radiates off her, a tangible aura of strength and vulnerability intertwined. She lifts her hand, brushing it lightly against his cheek, not tenderly, but with deliberate weight, as if measuring, judging, acknowledging. "Then I burn alone," she says softly, her eyes glimmer with unshed tears and silver fire. "And I will not let anyone take that from me. Not you, not them, not fate itself." The wind swirls around them, the moonlight catching in droplets of rain and blood, turning the world into silver shards and light. The remaining wolves watch, some trembling, others silent, as history is being written not in victory or defeat, but in choice. And in this silence, Kael realizes the truth. She is no longer a girl to be saved. She is the storm, the crown, the flame, the reckoning, and she has already chosen her path. He swallows hard, feeling the weight of every wrong he has done, every hesitation that almost cost her life. Yet beneath the guilt lies a quiet awe, a recognition that she has ascended beyond fear, beyond cruelty, beyond him. And if he wants to stand at her side, truly stand, not as protector but as mate, as equal, he must accept it completely, without question. "Then I stand with you," he says, voice trembling. "Not as alpha, not as king, but as yours, if you'll have me." Lyra studies him for a long moment. The fire in her chest hums, bright, untamed, alive. And finally, she nods. Not fully forgiving, not fully yielding, but acknowledging that the bond they share is stronger than pain, stronger than fear, stronger than even prophecy. "Then choose wisely," she whispers, eyes locking with his, "because the world we step into, it doesn't bend for anyone, not for love. Not for loyalty, only for fire." And the world seems to pause. The wind stills, the rain hangs suspended in the silver moonlight, the earth itself holding its breath, waiting to see if anyone will rise to meet the Moonfire Queen. "Would you have chosen her, or feared her too?" the narrator murmurs, soft, haunting, like the echo of a heart beating beneath the ruins. Is she a hero, or just a girl cursed with too much fire? The last embers of the battlefield flicker, wolves bow, the wind sighs, and the silence leaves a question suspended in every listener's soul. And you? Where would you stand? If this story burns through your heart, subscribe to Moonlight Mate Stories, where every tale is written in moonlight and scars. Join us and feel the fire rise. The dawn spills across the battlefield in molten gold, burning away the silver haze of night, but not the shadows that cling stubbornly to the earth. Lyra walks forward, each step measured, deliberate, the weight of her crown heavy yet natural upon her shoulders. Her hair streams behind her like dark silk kissed by the morning light, streaked faintly with embers of her silver flame, still humming faintly beneath her skin. The world around her seems to hold its breath, uncertain whether to bow or flee, and the wolves that once fought and feared her trail at a respectful distance, silent as shadows in awe of the queen who has risen. Every echo of the wind carries memory, screams, whispers, the cracking of bone and fire. They are gone now, reduced to echoes, but they linger in her mind like a song she cannot silence. The earth beneath her feet trembles lightly, a pulse that matches her own heartbeat, a rhythm she recognizes, a warning she cannot yet name. It is as if the world itself senses the change, the awakening of a force it had tried to suppress for centuries. From the periphery of her vision, a shadow stirs. Subtle at first, a movement among the misted trees, barely visible against the awakening light, but unmistakably there. She senses it before she sees it, a presence ancient and calculating, pulsing with power equal to her own, yet shrouded in menace. Her fingers tighten instinctively, a faint flare of silver fire licking the air like a warning to the unseen. The wind seems to bend around the figure, carrying the faint scent of iron and earth, of wolves long gone but never forgotten. Then the voice cuts through the morning stillness, low and resonant, carrying the weight of centuries. The true Alpha hasn't risen yet. The words are not just heard, they are felt, vibrating through the marrow of her bones, awakening something deep, primal and dangerous. Lyra freezes, every muscle taut, senses straining. She can feel the pulse of the unseen figure, measuring her, weighing her, testing her resolve. Every instinct honed from years of flight and battle screams to prepare, to defend, to strike. But something else, curiosity, fascination, dread, binds her feet in place, forcing her to acknowledge that this is a challenge she was always meant to face. The figure steps into view, partially obscured by shadows, the rising sun catching only glimpses of a silhouette carved like marble. Tall, commanding, with eyes that shine like twin moons, reflecting the dawn and the storm of power contained within. Lyra's breath catches, not in fear, not entirely, but in recognition of a force that could rival her own. Every nerve hums with tension, a dance of anticipation, a storm of possibilities she cannot yet name. Kael, a few paces behind her, senses it too. His hand brushes against the curve of her spine, a silent anchor, a tether of trust amidst the unknown. He does not speak. Words would only intrude on the gravity of the moment. Instead, his golden eyes mirror hers, flickering with alarm, awe, and a protective fire that burns quietly, waiting to be unleashed. Even he cannot fully comprehend the enormity of the presence before them. The air thickens, shimmering faintly as if charged by unseen magic. Lyra feels her heartbeat amplify, a drumbeat of destiny and danger intertwined. Every instinct screams that this is more than an enemy. This is a reckoning, a force that has been waiting for centuries, perhaps millennia, for her emergence, for her claim of power. Her mind races, remembering the visions at the ancient altar, the whispers of the ancestors, the prophecies that had haunted her nights. None of it prepared her for this. The first real confrontation with the shadow of what the world has kept hidden. She straightens, chin lifted, eyes narrowing with a mixture of defiance and curiosity. Silver flames ripple across her skin again, faint but unmistakable, a signature of the power that has chosen her. She is the Moonfire Queen, risen from chains, from ashes, from every injustice and betrayal. And yet, the figure before her seems to match her step for step, breath for breath, a reflection of her own power mirrored through shadow and intent. "You are not alone," Kael whispers, voice steady despite the tension, a reminder of the bond they share. "Whatever comes, we face it together." Lyra glances at him briefly, eyes softening, yet her focus returns immediately to the figure in the distance. This is no mere challenger, this is a harbinger. She can feel the depth of experience, the sheer force of will, the promise of confrontation that could either break her or forge her into something greater than she ever imagined. The shadow moves closer, deliberate and unhurried, every step ringing with authority. Lyra tenses, readying herself not just for a battle of claws or silver fire, but for a collision of destinies. The rising sun glints off the figure's eyes, twin moons burning with silent intent. And she knows instinctively, this is a power equal in magnitude, a threat intertwined with her own fate. Her mind flashes with possibilities, alliances forged and broken, wars yet to be fought, pacts that would kneel or rise against her. Every choice she has made, every scar she carries, every ounce of fire within her has led to this very moment, and she feels it now, the thrill, the fear, the inexorable pull of destiny, all converging into a single point, the arrival of the true Alpha, not yet revealed, not yet known, but undeniably real. The world seems to pause around them. Even the winds hesitate, even the rustling of leaves quiets. The battlefield is gone, replaced by a suspended reality where time stretches thin, and the only truth is the encounter unfolding. Lyra inhales sharply, feeling the air vibrate with potential and peril alike. Every muscle is coiled, every sense sharpened. She is ready, not only to meet this figure, but to confront the truth that has always been whispered behind closed doors, in shadows and firelit prophecies. Then, as the figure raises a hand, the first ripple of recognition passes through her, a spark of insight that chills and excites all at once. The eyes, twin moons, lock with hers, and she feels the weight of eternity pressing down, a silent proclamation that the story is far from over. Kael's hand tightens on her waist, a gentle yet firm reminder that she does not face this alone, and that the bond between them is now a force of its own, unyielding, indestructible, a shield against the storm. Lyra straightens, chin lifted, shoulders squared, fire and silver blending seamlessly into her aura. She steps forward, not in fear, not in submission, but in command. "If you seek the throne," she says, voice steady, carrying both challenge and warning, "know that it is already claimed, and I will not relinquish it." The twin moons in the shadowed figure's eyes flare faintly, as if acknowledging her words, yet hinting that this is only the beginning, that trials, wars, and truths yet unseen, await beyond the horizon. The camera, if one could see the world as she does, pans slowly away, capturing the trembling earth beneath her feet, the distant mountains shrouded in mist, and the shadowed figure standing, silent, immovable, powerful, watching. Lyra's cloak flutters in the dawn wind, the faint silver glow of her fire still alive, a promise and a warning. And the narrator's voice cuts through the quiet like a whispered prophecy. This is not the end. The queen has risen, but the alpha's shadow stirs. Power, fire, destiny. It waits, unseen, patient, and when it strikes, only the bold will survive, or reign. The light flares, the screen fades to black, leaving only one haunting message. To be continued, only on Moonlight Mate Stories. Every crown has a price, every fire leaves a mark, and every story hides a truth waiting to be claimed. If Lyra's journey, her pain, her fire, her rise from chains to crown, stirred something inside you, don't let it fade into the shadows. Subscribe to Moonlight Mate Stories and step fully into a world where every heartbeat, every secret, every scar tells a tale of love, power, and destiny. Turn on the notifications so you never miss the next chapter of Lyra's epic journey, where queens are born from fire and alphas are only shadows waiting to rise. Comment below. Tell us, would you kneel or would you rise with her? Because here under the moonlight every choice burns.